The first vulnerability of Bulgaria, and maybe the most important in the domain of hard security, is the old-fashioned weapons that Bulgarian armed forces are using. The majority of available weapons of Bulgarian army is Soviet era weapons. I mean, main battle tanks. I mean, armored vehicles. I mean, air defense systems and artillery and so on. So that's the main problem, which may be not so tricky in general, because Bulgaria is producing a lot of weapons. Actually, it's one of the biggest producers of weapons in the Black Sea region. So the country can repair or modernize weapons by its own means, but still in some domains of this space, Bulgaria may need connections with Russian suppliers. The second one is the fact that Bulgaria is, as I mentioned before, Bulgaria is one of the biggest producers of weapons in the Black Sea regions. In the Black Sea region, first country produces a lot of munition for artillery, for infantry. Bulgaria's facilities. Such Bulgaria's facilities are an aim of foreign attacks, as it was since 2014. There were several explosions in Bulgaria, explosions or fires in Bulgaria's weapon producers facilities. And in some of these cases, the Russian spies or Russian agents were suspected to be executives of these actions. Traditionally, Bulgaria is and is perceived as a quite close country to Russia because of historical, cultural reasons, economic reasons, and that is why this perception was formed not only in outside Bulgaria but also inside Bulgaria. Some part of Bulgarian society still perceives Russia as not only a close country but as ally, maybe, and that is why part of political elites, part of Bulgaria's political elites, still try to keep ties with Russia and try to demonstrate that they are ready to have this dialogue with Russia. First of all, I'm talking about Bulgarian Socialist Party, which had contacts with Russia's elites. It's an interesting thing that Bulgarian elites changed from that time first contacts, but Russia's elites did not. I mean that in the first years of the 21st century, some Bulgarian leaders tried to establish some common projects with Russia with Vladimir Putin, dictator Vladimir Putin, and that project could lead Bulgaria to tricky dependence from Russia. I mean, South Stream project. I mean, nuclear power plant in Belene project. That were socialist leaders who tried to establish such formats and such projects. That is why currently Bulgarian Socialist Party tries to not to keep ties with Russia, openly keep these ties, but try to demonstrate that they are ready to talk to Russia, to count on interests of Russia in foreign policy of Bulgaria and in joint position of EU countries and NATO countries, maybe. That is why the party's leadership, namely Cornelia Dinova, had quite ambiguous position on Russian invasion of Ukraine. And another actor who has a controversial position on Russia and Russian foreign policy is Konstantin Konstantinov and his party Revival. This party is non-systemic party, it's right-wing party, that is why they have some kind of radical position and radical positions on different issues, and particularly on the foreign policy of Bulgaria. Konstantin Konstantinov and his counterparts stated that Ukraine tries to involve Bulgaria into the war, while insisting on providing Bulgaria's weapons for Ukraine. And Konstantin Konstantinov opposed to the idea of providing Ukraine with Bulgaria's weapons. Also, he was spreading some fakes about Ukrainian refugees in Bulgaria, and his party openly supports re-establishment of business as usual with Russia. As I mentioned before, this party is right-wing and non-systemic, but his support, Konstantin Konstantinov, support and his party is on rise because of political crisis in Bulgaria, because of lack of trust among Bulgarian citizens in current leadership. This party probably will use this political chaos in Bulgaria for gathering even more support, which is dangerous, not only to the idea of providing Ukraine with Bulgarian weapons, but to the security of Bulgaria itself, because it means that country may become more vulnerable in this crisis, in these attempts of Russia to keep its influence and to undermine the stability of Bulgarian society. I don't think that Russia will try to directly interfere the elections or any other political processes in Bulgaria, because Kremlin's positions in Bulgaria were undermined by the policy of the previous Prime Minister Kirill Petkov, and by understanding of some part of Bulgaria's political elites that Russia is a threat for Bulgaria. But some actors, as I mentioned before, Возрождение and to some extent Socialist Party, their attempts to use problems of Bulgarian society and to use the topic of war for gathering political capital may lead to strengthening of positions of Kremlin inside Bulgaria. Still, there are a lot of actors inside Bulgaria who are spreading Russian narratives, who are spreading Russian fakes about war in Ukraine, about their desires of the Kremlin, and about the Bulgarian society itself. The most dangerous actor in this regard is Russia's embassy in Sofia, because they are just spreading fakes, and our team also was monitoring that fakes, that campaign, disinformation campaign that they are conducting. Also, it's important to mention some Bulgarian outlets which are spreading some Russian narratives. For example, it's Media Duma, which actually is not so popular among Bulgarian citizens. Their rates are declining, had been declining over the past years, but still such outlets still exist in Bulgaria, and they are openly use Russian sources of information. Also, during the research, I realized interesting point that some Bulgarian media, while informing their audience about events in Ukraine, they try to keep distance and try to use information from both sides. Which means that while informing about, for example, hostilities, they're using information from Russia's general staff, and without fact checking, and which is quite tricky because Russian sources try to justify their actions in Ukraine, and the whole logic is tricky, is false in this regard. That is why in this space, I think that Bulgaria needs some kind of responsible journalism and responsible news. Also, another source of Russian information influence in Bulgaria, which may be not so prominent, but still it exists and has its influence. That's Russian community in Bulgaria, which is quite big. These people are creating their Facebook groups, pages, and they are spreading news from Russia, news about war in Ukraine, news about Bulgarian politics, news about sanctions, and so on. So that's also is a channel of spreading Russian narratives inside Russia and inside Bulgaria, and because there is no kind of moderation, or because there is no attention of some Bulgarian researchers on this issue. These groups may have some destructive influence on political situation in Bulgaria and on perception of events in Bulgaria. The most prominent example of overcoming or struggling the Russian influence in Bulgaria, of course, is expelling of Russian diplomats from the country. Generally, in total, 83 diplomats were expelled in 2022. But the problem is that that Bulgarian authorities, in the majority of these cases of expelling, they have not explained clearly their decision. They did not explain how these people influenced Bulgaria, how they were spying, and so on. Also, another interesting case was when in summer, Bulgaria Special Services informed that they revealed the network of pro-Russian media, expert journalists, and other actors who tried to influence Bulgarian social opinion and public opinion, and it was quite interesting because at that time authorities informed that those people were directly paid from Russia and directly paid from Russian government funds. But still, after that, there were no any developments in this regard. That is why it's a problem. I perceive this as a problem because the country needs to clearly struggle Russian influence, and when you announce revealing of Russian spies or Russian influence in the network, you should inform your society about the developments of this case. And any further information, it means that more frustration of society on this issue will appear. Talking about Russian influence, I would say that Bulgarian authorities may use Ukrainian experience to struggle Russian influence. First of all, in cyberspace, in hybrid threats, but also in other domains of public life, which means Bulgaria needs to have clear and comprehensive monitoring of its vulnerabilities by itself, and which may reveal some actors, not prominent, but actors, maybe not prominent, but actors who really influenced and still are influencing the political landscape of Bulgaria. If we are talking about the recommendation for EU in this regard to counter Russia's influence in Bulgaria, I would say that it is in economic space, because Bulgaria made really bold steps for for decreasing the dependence on Russia in oil supply, in gas supply, and other domains, economic domains. And Bulgaria may have some problems with that in nearest years, which may influence and create problems for Bulgarian citizens. That is why EU institution should help Bulgaria to overcome this dependence, and they should support country.